It's 50 days to the presidential and parliamentary elections. Good afternoon and welcome to Election Brief with me, Emefa Akosia Adeti. We're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125, and all social media handles and around the world on myjoyonline.com. Election Headquarters is brought to you by Petrosol Platform Energy, Energizing Dreams, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy Dental, Wellness and Beauty, now Chobox Technologies, a convenient service, and Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging the gap for positive youth development. Do stay with me for more. Now, this afternoon is just a day after Speaker Alban Bagwin's grand ruling, which shifted majority's control of Parliament from the NPP to the NDC. And while the NDC side has been jubilant, the NPP side has been contesting the ruling and insisting they still are in the majority. The two sides have been addressing the media in separate news conferences in Parliament today. Now, let's start with the NPP. Now, the NPP group in Parliament are raining fire on the Speaker of Parliament for his ruling yesterday that effectively made them the minority party in the House. Alban Bagwin declared 4 seats vacant and significantly altered the balance of power in the House. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin accused Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagwin of seeking to be in the good books of the NDC, who they say wants another run at the speakership in case the NDC wins.
We call upon the good people of Ghana to condemn the conduct of Mr. Speaker and then the NDC minority. And it was very rich. It was very rich to hear Dr. Forson immediately proclaiming to be a majority leader. In fact, Mr. Speaker himself, in spite of doing their bidding, fell short of declaring them to be the majority, in spite of all. And then he still found space to address me as majority leader and still address him as minority leader. But again, they further exposed themselves, because immediately after, their flag bearer was on a campaign platform claiming that God has given them the majority status. Is that how God grants majority status on individuals who are full of mischief, vicious, and evil? What they did was evil. What they did in Parliament yesterday was evil. NDC does not believe in democracy. They believe in chaos. And we are law-abiding citizens. We in the MPP are Democrats. We believe in the rule of law, and that is why we calmly left the chamber for them. And we know that if we make our case well in court, the court will make a determination that would advance the cause of democracy.
Now, Minority Leader in Parliament, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, has today launched an attack and made unfounded claims against the Joy brand. Now, Senior News Editor and Head of our Political Desk, Kyei-Mensah, joins me in studio. Now, I know you're not very happy man this afternoon.
Of course, I can be. When you have the Minority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, make confounded accusations against the media organization that I represent, obviously, you cannot be happy. But the point about his issue, and it started yesterday, fundamentally says that we should not describe him as the minority leader. But there was a ruling in the House yesterday by the Speaker. The Speaker is clothed with the sole authority and mandate, according to the standing orders that he, Afenyo-Markin, and the rest of the members in Parliament put together recently, new Speaker, the standing orders, that clothed him with the authority to deliver such rulings. He is, if you like, the equivalent of the Chief Justice in Parliament, and his ruling is final until you challenge it and challenge it successfully, which is what he's seeking to do at the Supreme Court. So until the Supreme Court vacates the the Speaker's ruling yesterday, it is the law in Parliament. What does that mean? It means numerically, the NPP's numbers have dwindled now by 3.
Yes.
So from 137, plus, of course, one independent candidate who was doing business with them, they are now down to 135. The NDC's numbers had also reduced by 1, from 137 to 136. Numerically, it's very simple. They become the minority, as in the NPP. The NDC becomes the majority. That will hold sway and will remain the status quo now until the Supreme Court overturns it if he is successful. So you have to describe him as such. We are a news organization. We have to be factual and we have to be accurate. In reporting this, to be accurate and to be factual, when you have a numerical balance of 135 against 136, you cannot say anything else than one side is a minority, one side is a majority. Regardless of what happened before the ruling, which indeed, again, factually so, he was a majority leader, and Kyei-Mensah Bonsu was a minority leader. But once the ruling was delivered, and he himself acknowledges that to challenge this successfully, he needs to go to the Supreme Court. He himself is admitting, by the sheer step he's taking to get to the Supreme Court, that the Speaker's decision, the ruling, stands. Absolutely. Right? And so until if indeed he believes that the Speaker's ruling is invalid, he wouldn't have gone to the Supreme Court. He would have found another way of doing it on the floor of Parliament. And there are processes in the standing orders for you to challenge the Speaker's decisions on the floor. But he's choosing the path of going to the Supreme Court. The mere fact that he chose that step alone is an admission that I say Chief Justice a lot because part of this is straddling between the judiciary and Parliament. The judiciary will have the final say on this, but the Speaker's ruling is final. And we have, as a media organization, must describe it as such. When the Supreme Court rules, either affirms the decision yesterday, overturns it, we will again play by the rule of what the Supreme Court had done. And again, as you've seen, and people have different positions on this matter. As a media organization, you can only follow what the facts say, which is what we've done. Why is this easy to do? You don't have to complicate it. In 2020, when Speaker Otchere was there and he delivered that seminal decision, which in essence made the Fomena seat, the MP then at the time vacated the seat, and then he then becomes, because he had gone independent, at that time, the NPP, they were in power. They had the numerical advantage was so significant that if you take one of the seats away, they still remain a majority. At the time, it held sway. They were still the majority because the numbers were what it was. And that ruling stood. Today, nobody went to the Supreme Court to challenge that, right? Even if anybody did, it wasn't successful because that carried on until the after elections and he came back to the House as a minority, as an independent candidate and started doing business with the NPP side. Today, Speaker Bagwin has delivered his ruling. That again will become the law in Parliament until somebody successfully challenges it. And as journalists and as a media organization, we can only report that fact.
I've got a question for you quickly. And so between the time that he goes to court, until then, if there's any ruling from the court or if there's anything that comes out from the court, we're allowed to address him as minority leader?
No, so let's be clear. Alexa Nathaniel Marking is the minority leader as we speak. The NPP is the minority party in Parliament as of today. The NDC is the majority party in Parliament as of today. Kyei-Mensah Bonsu is the majority leader as we speak today. And that is very clear on the face of what had been decided by the Speaker yesterday. That's what it is. And Alexa Nathaniel Marking is wrong in questioning our reporting of the facts as we all saw play out in the full glare of this country on national television as did by the Speaker of Parliament. We can only report that. There is a contest over whether it was constitutional or not. That contest will be decided by the Supreme Court. That is not our domain as journalists. We will have to report what has happened in Parliament. Parliament is the master of his own rules. When the Speaker did it in 2020, it was a law in Parliament. Speaker has done it today, it's a law in Parliament, and we can only report that fact. And so to repeat the point. Alex Anafenyo-Marking is wrong to question our report and to accuse us of being mischievous. We're not mischievous.
Are we taking any steps?
When he was in Parliament then, as one of the leaders in 2020, and this happened, he was happy with that decision at the time. Now, of course, things is flipped because you have a hung parliament, and it has implications for your ability to hold on to your majority position. And of course, I understand. It takes us personally because, of course, you are the leader at the time when this decision has been taken. So you understand why he is unhappy about the outcome. But what he cannot do is to tell a journalist not to report the fact. He's not entitled to do that.
I totally agree. But are we going to take any steps?
I mean, the steps is to point out the error in what he's done, which is exactly what we're doing, and to be absolutely unequivocal about making the point that we are absolutely right. The Constitution enjoins us to report the facts. The GJ Code of Ethics enjoins us to report the facts. And nobody, even when you are aggrieved at an outcome of a decision of an authority such as the Parliament, remember, the Speaker was delivering that ruling, but he was doing it as the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. When an authority like that has delivered a verdict, to tell a journalist not to report that verdict and its implications is just wrong, and we won't do that because, as we say, we are bold, we are fearless, we are credible. But above all else, we can be all this, but if we fail to be accurate and factual and balanced, then we stop being journalists.
Right. Before I let you go, final question and I'll let you go. What does this mean in governance? What does it really mean? Does it have any impact?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the entire architecture has changed. This is historical. We haven't seen it before. It's going to affect government business in the House. That's why they have taken the step to boycott it. It is their right to boycott it. And the beauty of the point about, just to go back and, wrap it around the answer to the question about the impact on governance is, we gave Afenyo-Marking a platform yesterday to speak, right? In fact, he objected to our describing him as a minority leader, right? But we still gave him the platform. That is what a responsible, fair, transparent, objective media house does. Yeah. Even when the person is not happy with you, you still give him the platform because we are enjoined to represent all sides of an issue, which is what we did. So after the governance questions, I believe because it's an uncharted territory, there are a lot more we need to learn. For example, what happens to the second deputy speaker's position?
Yes.
As we speak, that position is vacant, right? So an election will have to happen. Again, next week, what happens to the various committees in Parliament? Do you have to reconstitute them? Yes. It has governance implications. The legislative work, as far as the government is concerned, will be affected.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Evans. Thank you. Now, staying on that story, the NDC majority has meanwhile jumped to the defense of Speaker Alban Bagbin, who has come under intense fire from the NPP. Addressing journalists in Parliament, Deputy Majority Whip Ahmed Ibrahim insisted the Speaker paid fidelity to the law.
He said the notice of pull by the Electoral Commission is out, and the pictures of those 4 MPs are there. They have changed their status. And based on that, there is automatic cessation. If you listen to the Constitution very well, it's a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat if he leaves the party based upon which he came to Parliament at the time of his election into that Parliament. So at the time of Kojo Asante's election to Parliament of Ghana, he was NPP member. And therefore, he must remain NPP member until 6 January 2025. At the time, Apia and Yasiama, NPP, an independent member for Fomina, was filing his nomination to come to Parliament in 2021. He came as an independent member for Fomina, and therefore, within the 4-year mandate, his status must not change. Have their status changed or not? It has changed. And the Speaker says that That article was put into the Constitution to be able to protect the loyalty of the members of Parliament to their constituent. So if you have come and you have changed your loyalty, should they still allow you to be there? So clearly, we don't need to belabor this. And I don't think even a professor, Professor Wayoseni, got it wrong. And you don't need a professor to tell you this. It's as clear as that. So I don't think the Speaker got it wrong. The political parties, if not politics that they are doing, are aware of the consequences. And that is why they always defer primaries in those constituencies that they are massaging. If not, why is it that in January they didn't open nominations in Formina?
Now, Ahmed Ibrahim has also been fighting the suggestion by the NPP group that the Speaker should have waited for the Supreme Court to decide a case filed before making his ruling.
Why were they dodging it? So we must not take it as if it is the Speaker who has given the ruling. Then they are saying, oh, there must be Supreme Court. Speaker is interpreting the Constitution. He must allow the Supreme Court to rule. My brother, was it the Supreme Court that ruled against Abraham Kofi Asante? Was it the Supreme Court that ruled upon Inus Afuseni? Was it the Supreme Court that ruled upon Andi Asiama? They say Andi Asiama, MP for Formina. My brother, if it is not broken, don't fix it. You go to Supreme Court for interpretation. But as long as Parliament is concerned, the one who defend and interpret the rules of procedure, so long as Parliament is concerned, is the Speaker of Parliament. And therefore, we must not be shaking our responsibility. Even as minority leader then, the Speaker defended the Constitution. And it was upheld by the then venerable, distinguished Speaker Peter Ajeti. And therefore, I don't think that what the new minority are doing is in the right direction. They are wrong, and they must agree that they are wrong. And they should have foresaw this. They should have foresaw it. If they know Bekwai or this in there, Formina is their stronghold, they should have supported the member of Parliament, because looking at the sensitive nature of this current Parliament. But they said we're running after Apia Kubi.
Now, with just 50 days until this year's general elections, what political ramifications does this present to the NDC? Now, joining me via Zoom is Dr. Jonathan Asante Otchere. He's a political analyst and a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Now, hi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Now, so with just 50 days to general elections, how is this likely to change the political landscape in the country?
Good afternoon to your viewers and to your good self. Certainly, we don't really have a lot of time. We probably have seen the full-blown nature of this particular, new architecture that we are going to have in Parliament. But the number of days that we have before the next elections, I believe that certain things will happen. Now, what is likely to happen is, if you are aware, most often than not, you will see that when government are about to exit, they bring certain ridiculous propositions, bills, contract of certain loans. We are aware of some kind of tax waivers and other things, which will definitely, increase the debt portfolio of the country. So such ridiculous propositions and contract arrangement and other things could easily be rubbished, and the state will not suffer for that. Apart from that, the other thing is that if this status quo ante should remain, then it means that the majority that has become minority will have to find a way of doing that government business. And that is the more reason why I feel that the current, sometimes you don't know how to describe him, the current minority that I have to mention his name, Mr. Afenyo Markens, the way and manner he's gone about this particular whole issue, for me, it tells me that he has displayed some kind of emotional immaturity with the way he's handling affairs. Now, if you could see what happened yesterday, according to the Speaker, it is not part of parliamentary practice that he will allow him to make certain pronouncement on his ruling. But you sought permission, he gave you. But you could see that the seething anger that he was displaying could not allow him to speak in a sober mind. That, for me, is a gross display of emotional immaturity. And that is why some of us believe that it was wrong on the part of the NPP to allow, Kyei-Mensah Bonsu to exit that particular portfolio and you give Mr. Afenyomakin, yes, you want the young to grow, that's okay. But probably you could have waited because what he has displayed is emotional maturity.
Right.
I felt that walking out is okay. But then to suggest that you're not going to be in Parliament until the Supreme Court rules. So in the interim, what will you be doing? And by that time, when you return, will you be able to overturn the things that the current majority would have done?
Right.
Have you thought of the effect? So government business should grind to a halt. I think that, I don't know if he consulted, some the stakeholders.
It's a good question you have asked. I'll keep you there and then I'll bring in Festus Abuaji, who is also joining us by phone. He is a security analyst. And hi, Festus, if you can hear me, good afternoon. So what is the likely security implication on this decision in Parliament? And what's the posturing of the actors that may be considering, especially now that 50 days is crucial to elections? Hi, Festus. Hello, Colonel Festus.
Can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon if you can hear me.
Good afternoon, thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Colonel.
Yeah, my simple, straightforward sense is that we're in the realm of politics, of governance, and of constitutionalism. The government is still in place. I mean, the executive arm of government. There is only one commander-in-chief at any one particular time. There's only one IGP, Minister of Interior, and so on. So as far as the security of the elections are concerned, I don't see any direct ramifications or implications of the happenings in Parliament yesterday, on election security or whatever it is.
Okay.
Now, I base my statement on my long-standing argument that election security is a law enforcement function. It's only in situations of conflict countries like Liberia, where you bring in the peacekeeping element to use their resources to provide additional security. For instance, security where the papers are being printed, security at the warehouses where the ballot papers and other election materials will be stored, the transportation of election officers and election material. All of these are law enforcement functions. They are not the business of the military.
Right.
But we have been faced with a narrative where, like what is happening in Parliament, which has its precedence 4 years back, where we have, conjured some kind of security threat, which necessitates the military to play a frontline law enforcement role. But having said that, to come back to your question, the commander-in-chief is the commander-in-chief. The arrangements that we have in place currently over the past 30 or so years are the same arrangements that are going to pertain as we go into, 7th of December. I wouldn't expect the new majority or the former minority to try and undermine the governance of this country and the electoral process.
Well, Colonel, let me stay with you again. I mean, you know that leaders mirror their followers. And so the question of what happened in Parliament yesterday and how temperance was so high up, are you suggesting in any way that the followers, the constituents, looking at their leaders will not have any form of security impact on them?
Well, I wouldn't think so. Now, whatever happened in Parliament yesterday was not a direct call on the constituencies of both parties or the respective parties to take the law into their hands and to disrupt the election. That was not the discourse that went on yesterday. It ended at the, excuse my language, the now minority leader saying that they're going to walk out of Parliament and are not going to turn, as the previous speaker said, until the Supreme Court has adjudicated. Now, that has nothing to do with the rank file whose duty will be on 7th December to go to their second ballot and catch up. Now, if, on the other hand, because we have not fully exorcised the ghost of vigilantism. We have not. We have rather found ways and means of institutionalizing vigilantism. So if, on the other hand, the two respective political parties, i.e. NDC, NPP, try to use their militia, which I argue has not been fully exercised, that's a different matter. But then it brings us back to the status quo, which is the constitutionality of the commander-in-chief. And
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you for speaking to us. But let me come back to you, Dr. Otchere. Now, what level of impact would this have on governance, considering the threat by the NDC to block some bills?
Well, I think there is that danger on the part of the NDC to, probably try to treat the NPP, who has now become the minority, with some kind of ridicule, and to use their majority to bulldoze their way through certain things. If they are not careful politically, the NPP can play the victim and let Ghanaians feel that, whoa, you guys have not even had power. You just have the majority in parliament, and look at it, the way and manner you are going about things. And so I'm of the view that things that will not inure to the benefit of the state, they should definitely block that. And things that will ensure that the government runs, they should equally cooperate. But on the side of the NPP, they will have to cooperate, accept certain compromises, lose some and win some, and ensure that government business runs. Other than that, government will grind to a halt. And that is not the kind of thing that we want in our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Otchere, for talking to us. Now, moving on, the elections are just 50 days away and the campaigns are on high swing, but not with some light moments. Now, Prince Kwame Kuduga brings you some catalogue of some of those moments in the following report.
I'm here.
But that's the issue we have with the Electoral Commission. Sometimes they are discriminatory because there are some people on this ballot paper who Bernard Mona qualifies more to be here than those people. And I know it will provoke controversy, but I mean it.
Well, this did not sit well with some of the candidates on the ballot paper. It's been a busy week for President Akufo-Addo and NDC's flag bearer, John Mahama. The two have been trading barbs over the ongoing battle against illegal mining.
Mr. J.M., where do you stand? What are you telling the people of Ghana? Because every time you speak from one corner of your mouth and you speak from another corner of your mouth.
And he's not in this country or he has been sleeping. So he should just tell his Flagstaff House media to get him the tape of what I said at the University of Energy and Natural Resources.
And if you thought the president was going to let Mahama have the last word, think again.
Why is John Mahama running away from the debate? Bawumia says he's ready any day for the debate. Why is Mahama running away from the debate?
And that's how we end Election Brief today. With me, MFA Akosia Adeti. There's more on myjoyonline.com. Thank you for watching.